a lot of you seem to enjoy my Desperate Man video on how I analyze its fantastic attributes, so naturally it seems I should just keep doing videos on the underappreciated masterpieces of country music. No! You gotta take the good with the bad. Now, I genuinely don't understand how an album like Graffiti U exists. I'm trying to understand who greenlit such a dumpster fire of this magnitude. This isn't an album I can enjoy because of how god-awful it is, like Zac Brown Band's The Owl. It's so horrendous, I can't even bear listening to it. So much so, whenever the album singles show up on the radio, I'm compelled to take the car I'm in and chuck it into a ditch or a lake to stop listening to it. Like Eric Church, Keith Urban also released this album in 2018 among the many records in the release cycle. But unlike Desperate Man, this album wasn't under the radar and the songs from it were everywhere. It has everything I hate in modern country. Southern stereotypes, non-country instrumentation, cheap production value, uninspired writing, and another 1,000 reasons to go with it. It's such an unappealing listen, and I can't understand how people can enjoy it. Some have gone to say it's his best record. What in the actual hell? My theory is they were probably listening to Golden Road and mistook it for Graffiti U. Or they were drunk, on drugs, or suffered from a chemical exposure. I've tried to hear justifications of this record being good as I try to be more objective in my discussions, but every argument made for this abomination is laughable. Oh, he's experimenting and pushing the bounds of country music. No, he isn't. He played it straight with every modern country music trope. If you want albums that actually push the bounds of country music, it would be Ingrid Andress' Ladylike and Sturgill Simpson's A Sailor's Guide to Earth, both of which find new and profound ways to express and enhance the storytelling in their albums. But this? Don't make me laugh. As well as the fact that this was nominated for Album of the Year at the CMA Awards, which is, in my opinion, the highest honor one can bestow there, as Entertainer of the Year has practically become meaningless, let's be honest. Paired with albums like Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves and The Mountain by Dierks Bentley. This album, according to these people, is on the same level as The Mountain, when there were several other albums that could have been nominated, such as Luke Combs' This One's For You or Kenny Chesney's Songs for the Saints. But this album, this one, was deemed accolade material by these jokers. And while it is a universally agreed opinion by casual listeners that this album isn't particularly good, not a lot of people online have gone into detail of what a disastrous record this is. So that's what I'm here for. I'm going to walk through this hellish fire of an album and see if I can come out alive. So in case you don't know, Keith Urban is an Australian artist who started to go big in the late 90s and became a country superstar in the 2000s. Up to this point, he has released 11 albums. Some of them were good, and others not so good. He was a powerhouse for about 15 years with several hits like Somebody Like You, Blue Ain't Your Color, among many others. I never really got into Keith Urban growing up, but his early stuff is solid, nothing truly profound or terrible. But once the bro era started, this was the beginning of the bottomless chasm of Keith Urban. From then on, every album he released was considerably mediocre or awful, and just when you think he's hit rock bottom, there's another bottom below that one. Now you're probably wondering, why don't I just review his latest album, The Speed of Now, if I considered it worse than Graffiti U? Well, frankly, Graffiti U is just one of the biggest drops in quality I've ever seen between albums. The Speed of Now is just ever so slightly worse. This album just leaves you wondering, what happened? How did a generally okay artist sink to such an irredeemable low? Well, I'll tell you how. So you know how in Shrek you are given a beautiful fairy tale exposition about love, and then Shrek literally wipes his butt with the notion of love? That's how this album opens, but not good. You get some pretty neat piano chords which are soothing, then you're hit with a little bit of context here. That guitar intro was taken from a song called Mama Tried, a prison blues about Merle Haggard's troubled upbringing. It's short, it's iconic, and really clever, and it's considered by many to be one of the 10 greatest country songs of all time. So how do you treat a song of such magnitude? You cannibalize it and strip it of all life and skin it alive, leaving a dangling corpse of a guitar intro to play out, and dear God, it's egregious. It insults the legacy this legendary man had, And this isn't me taking shots at Teresa Haggard, who allowed the guitar riff to be used. I sincerely doubt she knew what they were going to do with it. And this is me complaining about the first 10 seconds. Dear Lord. Maybe the rest of the song isn't bad. From a songwriting standpoint, this song makes no sense. He's talking about trying to get home, but he never goes into why he has to. His only explanation is, there's a place that I know where they all know me. I've got to get back now to the ones that love me. Not only are the writers of this song not inventive enough to rhyme me with something different, they literally copy and paste the first phrase to make up the missing runtime in this poorly written chorus. Everything he describes is faceless and holds no emotional weight. Kinda like Drivers. And what do you know? Since the song is so awful, they gotta find a way to sell this with attaching a pop star. Julia Michaels honestly just had her name attached to this song and that's it. She's here for the last small chunk and contributes next to nothing. I hate this song, it's my sleep paralysis demon, and I wake up every day in fear of listening to it again. And guess what? This isn't even the worst song on the album. If you somehow manage to survive the journey of coming home, you're greeted with 90% of a song where Keith Urban just breathes so weirdly and passes it off as a song called Never Coming Down. And you know how teachers in high school always say restate your question? That's what this song is. It's naming the most random stuff that has minor correlation to one another and doesn't go into detail about them whatsoever. He's gotta check, and he's gonna get good. That could mean an infinite amount of things. It follows every modern country trope in the book, doing unnamed acts that have no significance, acknowledging the sun and the moon, cold beer. It might honestly have the worst bridge I've ever heard. And bridges are my favorite aspect of a song, which carry the entire thing home. But this topples everything and leaves a cascading mess in its wake. Same Heart is basically Driver's License without a good melody and shoddy production. It follows your standard tricks in a breakup song, faceless details, whiny, dull attempts at emotional beats, and it copies and pastes just like Coming Home does. Then we get this lame trick where an artist has to separate an intro to a song because they need to stretch this record to a 15-track length to make do with the number of streams. That's why Morgan Wallen's album Dangerous broke streaming records, not because so many people were listening to it, but because of the fact that the album is 30 songs long. And I predict from this point on, the age of the 10 to 12 track album is over. Personally, I prefer a tightly written, cohesive record, but unless every song is a banger, studios are just gonna keep recording 20 songs per artist. And honestly, this 30-second intro might possibly be the best thing about this album. I'm not joking. It is the only thing on this entire record that isn't irritating or insulting. So the actual song opens with My Wave. It starts out nice and harmless. It seems like a simple beach tune, which people like Kenny Chesney and Jake Owen do. But once we get to the chorus, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It is so vocally unpleasant. And somehow, the production makes the terrible melody even worse. The next song, Parallel Line, supports my opinion that more songwriters don't make a track better. Personally, I think there should only be 1 to 2 songwriters per song. It allows for a more cohesive vision, if you will, and allows for me as a listener to get the most out of a song as possible. Parallel Line has 11 songwriters, and one of them is Ed Sheeran. Honestly, I'm not surprised because Keith desperately tries to be him on this song, and I think Ed Sheeran has some pretty good ideas, but the other 10 songwriters just butchered whatever plan he had for this. Because it's seemingly interesting, it isn't good, but it's one of the few songs on this album that had the potential to be good. It just falls into the same trap every song does. Drop Top tries to have its style or blinding lights moment to play at 80s nostalgia without putting even an ounce of effort those songs did. Cassie Ash, or whatever her name is, I don't feel like going on Wikipedia, is so god awful. Her only purpose in this song is to name as many boring adjectives as possible. I need to take a break and listen to some good songs. Be right back. You know what made Style and Blinding Lights so good? Well, there's a lot of things, but probably the most important thing to me is the production. Normally, I look at the writing, but I think most people can agree that these aren't the most well-written songs. This song is more about the emotional rush, and the production enhances that experience by blending everything so effortlessly. Both songs start out mellow and soft, and once the song gets going, they don't stop whatsoever. It's such a rush of emotions, and it feels like driving a car at 100 miles per hour. a feeling not many songs have given me throughout my life. Wait, I thought I was reviewing Graffiti U. Well, time to go back to hell. Way Too Long is a perfect example of the laziness songwriting has. Instead of saying Valentine's Day, he just says Valentine, because he couldn't rhyme anything with day beforehand. One of the biggest issues a lot of the modern Keith Urban albums have is that they love to artificially modify Keith Urban's voice. Just let him sing. He has a vocally distinct voice. And this song isn't terrible. I feel nothing with it. And honestly, being forgettable is worse than being terrible. On the song Horses, I don't know why I hoped for a stripped back song. The opening seemed nice and simple. But this is Keith Urban we're talking about. You don't get nice and simple. You get drum loop after drum loop after drum loop. Also, I don't know why I didn't mention it before. This album has an abnormal number of collaborations. This isn't a special project like Reboot by Brooks and Dunn or number 6 collaborations by Ed Sheeran. It's just a regular studio album. And it shows desperation. That he cannot succeed with these songs on his own, and he has to attach a bunch of artists for meaningless roles in his songs. Why are there 3 flippin' Shy Carter songs? Who asked for Shy Carter 3 times? This song with Lindsay L tells me to let my horses run, as if I'm supposed to know what that means. Don't expect the song to tell you. The songwriters can't even figure out what that even means, which is their job. Also, if Lindsay's name wasn't on this song, I wouldn't have known someone else was here. Her voice is so buried under a mountain of unnecessarily heavy production. She feels more like a background instrument rather than a singer in a duet. In Gemini, Keith literally rhymes it with it 4 times in the opening 20 seconds. I got something for you to rhyme, Keith. It's sh**. In fact, he rhymes a lot of words with the same word. Kinda like nursery rhymes now that I think about it. Then we get another intro, as if we needed another one. And unlike the last one, this one gets on my nerves, as it's just 10 seconds with Keith saying he wants to sing about Texas. Let me give you a sample of what Texas music sounds like. Everyone loves Texas. It's rich, rootsy, and is great from a songwriting standpoint. But you choose to pay tribute to Texas with this malignant evil? It's just him saying as many places as possible without any interesting details, and saying there's no girls like the one in Texas. It isn't the worst song, I'll admit, but it does have the worst line out of any track on this album. And I know a place where the people real, and they're taking it easy, making it you feel right at home. Yeah, that's where I'm going. It's just comical at this point, the laziness I see these days. And it really shows that Keith Urban doesn't really have to try anymore to sell his music. In a sense, Nashville doesn't have to try anymore to get their audience to listen, because people will just settle for the garbage rather than hunger for the feast that is quality. Ironically, I hate the final 3 songs the most. Technically, they're going out with a bang, yay! Except this bang is a gas explosion burning anything and everything in its path. Love the Way It Hurts from a songwriting standpoint is passable. It's a far lesser version of Sand in My Boots, but it has without a doubt one of the worst melodies I've ever heard. You are Keith Urban, stop trying to be the Chainsmokers. If Love the Way It Hurts has the worst melody, then Female is by far the most insulting. I know we live in an age where feministic empowerment has become the norm. Is that a problem? No. I don't judge songs for their themes, I judge on how they're executed. You can have a song where I don't agree with the message whatsoever, but if it is told in a profound way, then I will praise it. Female is just Keith Urban listing female roles with no emotional input. Now, I can understand if it's coming from a place of sincerity, but it's so vocally unappealing. The instrumentals are stagnant and weak, and the writing is heartless if I'm being honest. If you want an album that does tell quality, feministic, empowering stories, there you go. You're not going to find it with Female. It's doing the bare minimum and pays lip service to the topic it tackles. The song was such a controversial event that Stephen Colbert made fun of it, who doesn't even waste his time on country music. And his version of the song is still better, let's be honest. Thankfully, we finally reached the end with Steal My Thunder. Hopefully we can get this nightmare over with. What the? It's a whopping 7 minutes long?
When will this nightmare end?
I tolerate long songs, yes, even Dear John, but at least there it's a well-paced story. Here, it's practically the same lyrics over and over. And get this, the song pretty much ends at the 5-minute and 30-second mark, and you sit in eerie silence for an entire minute and hear this.
Get the wall to the body, send it up in the body, they get it loose. Take it off for the beat. Set the wall to the walk on the feet. She said the goose, walk on the feet, and then down.
You know, can we just admire the genius that went into this song? Keith Urban is ahead of all of us in music. He is light years away of anyone in the music process, and this song is proof of that. Don't you agree? Of course you don't. It's god awful. It makes you wonder who in their right minds thought this was good for public consumption, and I have no problems calling it the worst Keith Urban song ever. The cringe level of this song is ridiculous, to the point where it can give you scoliosis. God, please let this end. Oh, it's over. So yeah, there isn't a single good or at least somewhat interesting song on the entire album. And is that a bad thing? Well... Now, don't confuse what I mean by good album as an enjoyable product. I appreciate this album because it makes me appreciate what I already have. Over the past few years, a lot of people tend to turn away from albums if they aren't given a 9 or 10 out of 10. If they see a 6 or even a 7, people will turn away from it, only looking for the idea of perfection, which comes extremely rarely. Well, I'm sick of it. There isn't anything wrong with an album with a less high rating. Graffiti U has allowed me to appreciate the mostly good albums of the world, like Kelsey Ballerini's self-titled record or Ingrid Andress' Ladylike, both of which have some substantial problems, but have some great qualities as well. Even then, I'd rather prefer a dumpster fire of a record I can mock and criticize deeply than records like these, which Nashville puts out on a regular basis that leave me with nothing. I hate this record with every fiber in my body, but I'm glad that I hate it. I know it's kind of a weird way to describe it, but that's just how I feel. It's a bitter reminder that there is good in Nashville, and people should stop turning away so fast and take the time to appreciate what is rather than what was, and take a look at what can be. Take a chance, listen to an album that's huge. Even if you don't like it, there's bound to be something you enjoy out of it. Graffiti U is in a sense the anti-magnum opus of Nashville. Rather than being the most important and praised record ever put out, its importance lies within its horrendousness. Overall, still better than Tullahoma. Good night.